Well, there is no doubt that most Bulls fans are excited and are hoping that through the new front office, the Chicago Bulls forge a new, more sustainable, positive direction than what we've been on over the last 6 years. And while the rumors over the front office, the coaching staff, possible free agents are all fun to talk about and speculate on, I want to actually talk about the flip side of that. What are some of the downsides to some of the rumors we've been hearing around what could come this offseason for the Chicago Bulls and where we could and probably should be a little bit more concerned at? We're going to talk about all that plus more and dive into the mailbag right after this. What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host, Derek Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today, y'all. And I want to start off talking about this, right? We've talked a lot about, and I've talked about the positive side of Matt Lloyd coming over here and Micah Nori coming over here and, all that's going on there. I think the Dave Lewin thing added another wrinkle that we're able to talk about over the course of this season. And, that it's fun, right? It's fun to talk about. It's fun when you look at the Chicago Bulls trying to get people from winning organizations that have done something. That's exactly what you kind of want to see, right? But I do want to point out that there are some downsides to if the Bulls actual, and I want to be clear here, it's a rumor right now, right? But it is one that makes sense. That if it makes sense that Matt Lloyd would be one of the front runners, considering his history with the Chicago Bulls front office and the organization here, the success that he's had at being the guy under Tim Connolly, and then to follow that up, there does make some sense that he would pivot towards somebody he probably knows heavily in Micah Nori and bring him over as the head coach, right? And Matt Lloyd still remains as reportedly the top name for that lead executive position. And if Micah Nori does become an actual candidate for the head coaching position, there is a positive sense in that it creates alignment, right? Like, that's what you want to have. And that's what we heard basically at the end of the AK era, is that there was no longer that alignment with Billy Donovan between the missed draft picks, the lack of, confidence in the direction. There was a lack of confidence in Billy Donovan and AK. And then Billy Donovan also had the thinking, right, and save the Bulls from themselves and saying, hey, whoever takes over this job, they deserve to find their new head coach, right? And so that's really good there. When you look at the recent success by the Minnesota Timberwolves, what they've had as far as even winning this series that they did against the Denver Nuggets the last 2 years prior to this year going to the Western Conference Final, like, this is a team that has, in the Minnesota Timberwolves, has done it the right way in resetting and rebuilding their roster, right? And it would signify a legitimate shift by the Chicago Bulls to go and poach these two guys from it. But the question that you have to present there is that, could the Bulls replicate Minnesota's success, right? Minnesota has become one of the toughest and most resilient teams in the NBA, right? And a lot of that is by their star Anthony Edwards. But you look at it, like, there's been a period of time each of the last 3 seasons where people looked at the Minnesota Timberwolves and been like, hey, are they actually as good as we think they are? And then they respond and they play some of their best basketball. They always get up for the playoffs, regardless of what their regular season record was. And that's good. And Matt Lloyd and Micah Nori have been two people that have been hugely important to that process, right? In the roster building. And, and Micah Nori being there for development and, being looked at as a true assistant coach. Chris Finch has given him credit to coming up with their defensive concepts and philosophies, coming up with late game situations, even on the offensive side of the ball. And been that Micah Nori truly has been the Tom Thibodeau to Chris Finch's Doc Rivers. And if you look at that, now they haven't won a title like Doc Rivers and Tom Thibodeau did, but he's truly been there, right? But I do want to point out that there is, if the Bulls are truly considering, and it's an if now, right? Like, we don't know for sure, considering poaching from the Minnesota Timberwolves, trying to copy a team's success and think that some of the same people in that building, because you bring them over to your building, you're going to be able to replicate that success. It doesn't always happen that way. Now, there are some cases where it does, but there are some cases where it backfires. And so I'm just worried that if the Bulls put their chips too much into the Minnesota Timberwolves, into that bandwagon, that it could come back and blow up. Because one thing, right, we tried to do that with AK. Now, we didn't bring over a coach from Denver. He didn't bring over, Mark Eversley wasn't also from Denver. But I just worry that if you're trying to bring over so much from one organization and you just think it's going to copy one for one, that you could be left sitting there holding your own dick and wondering what the hell happened. Now, that's a wild analogy to be made there, but I stand by it. But so you're worried about, that part of it. The lesson with AK in Denver is one that the Bulls should learn from it. Just because you had success in one winning situation, it doesn't mean that you're going to carry over that success to a new situation. It doesn't mean that transfers. And so, for the people that are looking at this situation and anybody who in the back of their minds like, well, would we be doing too much for Minnesota if that ends up being the case? Would it be playing it too safe if that ends up being the case? Maybe. That's why I do like the fact, like, even when I speculated on it, like, hey, maybe we can bring Micah Nori and Dave Lewin over, right? And then, the other stuff has popped up from other outlets, saying that maybe that is a possibility as well, is that you add in a different perspective. You add in somebody who's also from a different winning organization that can then say, hey, that's great. This is how we did it there. This is how you did it here. Let's find a way to kind of mix these two methodologies together, these two game plans together, and then let's forge what this identity of this Bulls franchise is going to be, right? So there's just a little bit of that. Now, like I said, with Matt Lloyd being with Chicago, he's been with Orlando, he's been with Minnesota. It's not like he's only had success in one spot, right? So there's not necessarily that part of it that you have to worry about. But I do just worry that there's a little bit of downside possibility to, just thinking that you're just gonna copy that over. Also, we don't have an Anthony Edwards. Now, we got some good players, and I'm not putting a cap on what Modest Buzelis can be. We haven't seen any in Noah Essengate. Josh Giddey continues to develop as a player. We got 2 top 20 picks in this draft, so we'll see how that ends up, working out for the Bulls too. We got 2 top 20, top 15 picks, really 2 top 15 picks in this draft, and an opportunity to really add some talent with cap space. Like, you have an opportunity here where you can really put, as I said in yesterday's episode, your fingerprint on this team early from day one, right? But it's just a lesson that needs to be learned, that you don't just get to copy another team's success because you poach from their franchise. And that's just the reality of it. Now, sometimes it works. Sam Presti, it works. He was able to bring over what he learned from other stops over the OKC Thunder, and it's worked out great, right? Mike Dangle, being somebody who worked under Billy Donovan, is now turned into a really good head coach. And so there is signs where those things can work, and it does help out. I'm not saying that it doesn't, but it's not often that you see a new GM exec, whatever the role ends up being, the title of it ends up being, and that you see them bring over a coach also from that organization, and then the success just keeps rolling on. It could, though. It could. So I want to hear from you guys in regard to this one. With the rumors that Matt Lloyd, is the front runner, if you even believe that. And then, the recent things that's popped up with that Micah Nori could follow Matt Lloyd over here. Do you think that that's too much from one organization, or do you look at it and saying, hey, bring as many people with as many eyes that saw winning and help build winning teams over here, and we'll figure out the rest where they fall? But I also want to talk about the recent rumors over free agents, right? We've heard everything from Peyton Watson, Jalen Duren, Walker Kessler, Mark Williams. You add into that Ben Mathurin, who we heard that the Bulls did try to take a look at the trade deadline. They could take another look at in restricted free agency. And while all the current links do make big sense for the Bulls, because the Bulls have a need for talent, they have a need for those positions, and they have the cap space to make it happen, right? We have that when it comes down to it. Wing and center are the two things that the Bulls probably should be prioritizing the most throughout their acquisitions this offseason, filling out the bench. But overall, talent is the thing there, right? But I do think that there is a thing where don't put your eggs all in that basket yet, because draft position is going to determine a lot of that for the Chicago Bulls as well. What I mean by that is this. Not just the own Chicago. Like, we know the Bulls currently are slated at number 9. They can move into the top 4. They can move as far back as number 13 as well. Don't forget, you can also move down 4 spots as well. So they can move back as far as 13. They can end up with picks 13 and 15 if things go terribly wrong for the Bulls in the lottery. But I do want to put a marker on that, is that keep those free agent targets in the back of your mind. And because, like I said, they all do make sense for the Bulls, right? And that's why they're popping up here. But we don't even know our front office. We don't know the draft position either. The draft position could dictate a lot of this, because if the Bulls do go into the top 4, and let's say Darren Peterson, Caleb Wilson, or AJ DeBonsta is the player that the Bulls do draft, what's your need for a wing at that point in time? You have your wing set up at that point in time. Same thing even if they do get number 4 and draft Cam Boozer, right? At that point, you're probably moving Modest to the 3. Cam's going to be the 4. You don't need a 3 at that point in time. You still need a shooting guard, so maybe Ben Mathurin fits in with that one, right? But I just want to keep that in mind too. Like, the offseason rumors are rumors for a reason, right? And it's more about the possibility. I can't stress enough how much I hear fans, and I don't know if they're more casual fans or whatever. It's like, oh, well, such and such got this wrong. Nobody is saying, hey, the Bulls are going to sign Jalen Duren. Nobody's saying, hey, the Bulls are going to sign Walker Kessler. They're more so saying, hey, this makes sense for the Bulls. This is what the Bulls could do in the offseason, but that doesn't mean it always works out that way. And every year in doing this job, now this is my 5th year doing this, and sitting here in this chair now for 5 years, I can't tell you enough how much I see fans get disappointed when the offseason rumors don't turn into facts, right? Same thing happens every year at the trade deadline. I think it's important to keep in mind that what they're giving you is possibilities and reading the tea leaves. It doesn't mean, hell, we don't even know how aggressive the Bulls were to pursue any of these guys, if they even do actually pursue one or all of those guys. So you got to keep that in mind. The situation is just that, right? It's speculation around it. And with draft position, not only the Bulls draft position, but also where other teams fall, what positions those other teams need that could move into the top 4, that could end up moving back, whatever it is. The draft board is so much fluidity left. And we have 7 days. The draft lottery and combine both start on May 10th, 7 days. And once that draft lottery goes down, that's when we'll have a more solidified fact on exactly what's going to be happening with this. Well, even then, it still could be up in air, right? But it'll kind of be easier to kind of understand the tea leaves at that point in time, and we'll see what's going to happen with that one. But let me know what you guys think on that part down below. I just wanted to talk about that because I've just seen a lot of hope get caught up in these rumors, and if things are right now, it's just rumors, and a lot of these are going to change drastically after the lottery, and therefore during the combine again as well. So let me know what you guys think on that one down below. With that said, let's go ahead and get into the voicemails for today. As today is a mailbag episode day. Let's get into this first voicemail that we have. This first one that we have, this one is from
Hey, my name's Craig out in Virginia. I want to say I love your show and love watching your YouTube channel. It's pretty funny. It's pretty awesome. Appreciate everything that you do. My thoughts are on the Bulls draft picks. I'm kind of seeing some people who are mentioning that the Bulls, if they do, fall out of the top 10 with that, or the top 4 with that first overall pick of theirs, if they fall ninth, that they should consider packaging it with the 15th, 16th, whatever pick it is, and trying to move up or trade for an all-star. I'm personally of the opinion that, quantity is kind of just as good as quality at this point. I think that the Bulls would be better off kind of using both of those picks to kind of fill out the roster, kind of, take 2 shots at getting, some kind of talent versus, trying to make a big swing of just a certain player. I mean, I get it if they did it like for someone like AJ DeBonsta, or, maybe even, if they decide to go, Cameron Boozer or something, getting into that, trying to get up there, I guess if there's someone that love. But I think just if we were to have the 9th and 15th pick, I think it would be best utilized to, use those picks versus trying to trade those or make some kind of big splash or something like that, especially since this team's trying to go through a rebuild. I think having young players that you can grow with and develop kind of does better for you in the long term versus trying to package it and try to move and get another player unless it's another young player. But those are just my thoughts. I think Bulls would be better off sort of utilizing both of those picks in this draft and just seeing what happens versus trying to make some kind of big move or bigger splash or anything like that. And of course, it all depends on who's going to be the new head coach, who's going to be the new GM and VP of basketball operations and whatnot. But I just wanted to know your thoughts.
Yeah, so I'm of the mindset that with the Bulls picks, they should keep them. Like, I think that I get the idea of packaging, and the fans are going to talk about that a lot. Oh, well, can we package this and that and move into the top? Like, I don't think there's going to be a lot of movement from. I think the top 5, top 6, 7 picks, teams are going to want to keep those, right? I think in this type of draft, teams are going to want to keep those. So I'm of the mind, like, definitely I don't want to see the Bulls trying to trade for a star. I don't think that that's where we are at all right now. I don't think we need to be trying to trade for a star with those picks. I think that we need to hold on to what we have, draft, take those bites at the apple, and then continue to try to develop it. Like, I think that's where I would like to see the Bulls be. even if which keep in mind the number 9 pick can fall down to number 13, even if that ends up happening, I would more so rather just see the Bulls hold on to that, keep those 2 picks, and then, just draft the talent, take those bites at the apple, and add an influx of talent to this roster. That's really what I think. You have some fans that have the mindset that they think you can't find a star sub pick number 5, right? And that's not necessarily true. I think especially in this draft with how deep it still is, especially in that lottery, you just got to do your due diligence. Now, I'm not mad if you try to package maybe your second and something to move up, but I would not be definitely trying to package number 9 and number 15 and then going out and getting a star. I wouldn't do that. And I wouldn't even trade 9 and number 15 and try to move into number 8. Like at that point, I think you're going to probably be locked in, and there's some really good talent you can take in that. Now, let's say something was on the board, I'm not going to be mad at it regardless either. If the Bulls can take number 9 and 15 and move into the top 4 and get a Cam Boozer or a Darren Peterson or whoever, a Caleb Wilson, if that's what they want to do, I just think that the best use of your assets now is to hold on to that, take a shot at the talent there, and then just ride that out. I think that's what the Bulls need to do at this point in time, is take the most bites at the apple, build a actual development thing and all that type of stuff here in Chicago, figure that the fuck out, and then just develop your young talent and take the more long-term approach. I don't want to see steps skipped here. We tried to skip steps with the AK making that trade for Nikola Vucevic, and it ended up biting us in our ass. Don't skip the steps and go through the process. You have free agent capital this year. You can add some more veterans to this team if that's what you need to do that can help fit around those players. There's a lot of that you can do there. So I'm not of the mindset trading the 2 first-round picks, keep those picks, add that talent to this team because we need talent more than anything on this team. All right, let's get into this next voicemail, man. This one's from Shay.
What's up, Hayes? It's Shay. Look here, man. Everybody is talking about what we should do. Should we go after Jalen Duren? Should we go after this? Should we go after that? Mike Williams and all that shit. Look, here's the best thing I believe we should do when it comes to that center spot. Okay? Let's sign a veteran like Steven Adams for the vet minimum. Maybe like a $5 million contract, maybe vet minimum type. And then let's draft the center. Steven Adams could be here for about a year or 2, be our starting center until the actual center that we draft is ready to start, and then he could be the backup center. That's how I would play it. Don't try to swing a home run and try to get Jalen Duren. Don't try to swing a home run and get a Mark Williams. Don't try to do none of that bullshit. Get one in the draft. Get you a reasonable veteran. Keep Jalen Smith, or maybe not, but get somebody like a Steven Adams or like a Mason Plumlee or like one of them veteran type centers or DeAndre Jordan until the center that we draft is ready to start. That's how I would do it. I think that if you swing and try to hit a home run with some of these centers who are trying to get priced out, trying to get paid like Walker Kessler, you're probably going to end up with it. I don't know, I was preaching Walker Kessler, but I mean, when you think about it, there's a lot of center depth that is talented in this draft that we could use. Maybe a guy like Chris, I forgot his name, Chris something, he's from University of Houston. But there is some young center depth, and I feel like us trying to pay this heavy money for a big man is kind of a little bit illogical, especially where we're at right now, and we don't know how long we're going to be ready to even compete. That's just me. Anyway, man, tell me what you think. Peace.
Steven Adams, bro? What the fuck? Shay, sometimes you think yourself into a toilet bowl, bro. I'm not going to lie to you. You just said go after Steven Adams, or I can't even remember the second guy that you mentioned, like DeAndre Jordan, my nigga. Like, what is wrong with you, Shay? Like, the point of cap space is that you don't always have it, so you use it. Even if you draft a center, we've seen young big man take a year or 2 or whatever it is. And then even if you do end up, let's say you sign a Mark Williams. There's no problem if you sign him to a 3-year deal. All right, cool. Now you're the backup. Let's say you take a Walker Kessler. All right, cool. You sign. I don't think any of the restricted free agents, I think the most you can offer them is 4 years anyway. But it shouldn't preclude. Take the best available in the draft, but still try to address by finding a starting caliber center. Now, if you find somebody that you feel is on day one able to start and even a Damar who's probably going to be the highest center taken, he's not going to necessarily be ready to take everything on day one. So I don't like DeAndre Jordan and Steven Adams is really where you went with that, Shay. You really thought you cooked on that one. What the hell is that? What the hell is it? There's no reason to cheap up. You're taking Reinsdorfian moves. Why cheap out when you don't have to right now? Why cheap out when you don't have to right now? You have the most cap space in the league, and you said Steven Adams or DeAndre Jordan? Please shut up. Respectfully, Shay, this was probably your worst voicemail ever. I'm just going to be 100% honest with you. This was terrible. This was a bad voicemail. Objectively, terrible voicemail. All right, let's get into this next one, man. This one's from Reggie.
Hey, this is Reginald just calling in. Like you, I'm not really expecting Io to sign back with the Bulls unless it's for far more money than anyone else is going to offer. Like you said, he probably would have taken a hometown discount. And by hometown, I meant like a 4-year, $72 to $80 million deal. But to sign back with the Bulls after, experiencing being on a playoff team, it's probably going to be more like 4-year, $100 million deal with the 4th year being a player option. That's just a parting gift from AK, essentially a fuck you to the fans. That's what he did. He found one last way to fuck us before he got fired. But if the Bulls can't get Io back, I wouldn't mind the Bulls going to New Orleans and talking to them about DeJounte Murray, offering P. Will to get him off their books. I think that's going to be the reason the Pelicans would do that deal, because they get back $14 million in cap relief for a team that needs cap relief. Also, you still have Okoro and Rob Dillingham that you can also use. In the Bulls case, they get back, trade exceptions, which AK never used because he's a dumbass. But once again, it's one of the reasons he got fired, or should have been fired a couple of years earlier. As for the trade exception the Bulls already have, like I said on previous calls, I think they should usually get Daniel Gafford. And I also wouldn't mind seeing Zach Collins re-sign, despite being out for the whole year. When he was on the floor the previous season, he showed us he can run with Giddey, he can play defense, and he can even spread the floor a little bit, which is all the things the Bulls need. And they can fight for the starting center spot, while I use the 15th pick to get Christian Mack. As for the number 9 pick, I wouldn't mind seeing Burries, but if by some disaster that the Bulls fall in the draft, like get the 11 or 12 pick, there's no way Burries is going to be there. And I think the Bulls should use that pick to get Yasso Lindbergh if they get the 11 or 12 pick. With all the second round picks the Bulls have, I wouldn't mind them getting just adding for depth, preferably juniors and seniors who already shown that, they already have the fundamentals down, and in worst case scenario, they can step in and start.
Io's probably going to get 20 to 25 million. I just wouldn't be surprised that happens, right? And at the end of the day, I know people have their hopes wrapped up in Io DeSumo coming back to this Bulls team. I mean, I'm not here to tell you what you should hope or not. I'm not going to think that it's going to be a big chance of it happening. It is what it is. If they are able to bring Io back, great. They're able to bring Io back. As far as DeJounte Murray, I can't really think of a reason why we want to absorb DeJounte Murray into our cap space. They don't have their own first-round pick this year to trade because they did trade their first-round pick in 2026. It means they can't trade their pick in 2027. And so it means that even if we're absorbing all of DeJounte Murray's cap room to salary into our cap space, we don't need another point guard. We have Trey, we have Josh Giddey. We're probably going to draft a guard somewhere in this draft, and then the first pick that we can get is 2028. I'm all for stacking future picks because you don't know what the Pelicans are going to be in 2028. I just don't know if that's the best assets when there are other players like a Cam Johnson you can take on with Denver. And Denver may be blowing it up. I think there's better players and better situations with picks to take on and absorb money than DeJounte Murray's money with the Pelicans who can't trade a first-round pick till 2028. That's just my personal opinion. I get what you're getting at with that one, but I just don't like that target personally. But hey, maybe, we're here from people who, leave your comments down below. Maybe you guys see the vision that Reggie has a little bit more than what I see the vision that Reggie has. But let me know what you guys think on that part down below. But that's going to do it for today's episode. Thank you guys for tuning in, especially on a Sunday. You guys mean the world to me and mean the world to what this channel is become. It has been for a long time, man, so we appreciate you guys. But I will say this. Micah Nori and Matt Lloyd make sense for the Chicago Bulls. And pulling from the Minnesota Timberwolves makes a lot of sense too. But I want everybody to not think that success is automatically going to transfer for the Chicago Bulls. And offseason rumors are just that. They're rumors. They're trying to put pieces together, and we'll see what is going to happen. It's a long offseason and a lot of stuff left to be done that's going to really dictate what this offseason could look like for the Chicago Bulls. So we're going to see how that takes shape for this Bulls team this season. Make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel as well. You can follow us at Shy Bears. Wrong podcast. You guys can follow us at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullcentralpod@gmail.com. And lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, but that is thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See you right if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Breaks Media.